There are difficult speedruns, and there's Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories, a game so brutally RNG dependent that for years people generally questioned whether competitive consistency was even possible. We're talking about runs ending in the first duel, brick hands, impossible enemy openings, bad deck drops, and one fusion dominating almost the entire game, the twin-headed Thunder Dragon. But over time, the community slowly transformed Forbidden Memories from pure chaos into real competitive speedruns. Now routes were discovered, new categories emerged, new strategies evolved, and eventually, I managed to push all the way to rank 13 in the world for any percent no twin-headed Thunder Dragon 15-card category. So today, we're looking at the full evolution of Forbidden Memories speedrunning from dark ages of vanilla RNG hell to the modern competitive meta. To really understand why Forbidden Memories became an infamous speedrun, you need to understand one very important thing. This game barely plays like normal Yu-Gi-Oh! At all. Most people come into Forbidden Memories expecting the anime card game, and what they actually got was a strange experimental PS1 RPG card game hybrid, with hidden mechanics everywhere. No tribute summoning system. Monsters can be placed immediately regardless of their level. Fusions are discovered manually. There's no fusion deck. Guardian stars affect combat. Terrain bonuses change stats. Rituals are confusing. AI behavior is wildly inconsistent. This game explains almost none of this properly, and back in the early days, most players learned through trial and error, or playground rumors, and speedrunning had optimized all of it. So, in Forbidden Memories, raw cards usually aren't enough, fusions are everything. Combining weak monsters creates massive power spikes, fusion knowledge determines progression speed, and many runs live or die on drawing combo material. A completely harmless looking hand can suddenly become a monster with over 2500 attack if you know the correct combinations. The problem is, you don't always draw those combinations. Some runs were dead before they even got started. You'd open up your hand, look at the cards, and instantly know the run was in trouble. No usable fusion lines, weak standalone monsters, defensive cards when you needed damage. And against aggressive duelists, this usually means one thing: reset. And the AI made things even worse. Forbidden Memories opponents could generate threatening boards incredibly early, especially if your opening draws were weak. Some duelists became massive run killers simply because your deck wasn't always equipped to answer their strong openings consistently. A run could be perfectly fine one duel and then completely collapse the next because the AI found exactly the card you couldn't deal with. And then there was one of the strangest mechanics of the entire game, Guardian Stars. There is Sun, Moon, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Pluto, Neptune, Mercury, Venus. Almost every monster in Forbidden Memories is assigned Guardian Stars, and those stars secretly interact with each other through an advantage system the game barely explains. If your monster had a favourable Guardian Star matchup against the opponent, it gained a hidden stat boost during combat, but if your matchup was unfavourable, your monster effectively becomes weaker instead. Advantage grants 500 attack and defense, disadvantages lose the same combat edge. Star selection matters before the battle, and in the game, where many duels are decided by only a few hundred attack points, that hidden modifier changes a lot. Because suddenly raw attack stats weren't always reliable, a monster that looked stronger on paper could still lose a battle entirely because of Guardian Star advantage. You might want to summon what appears to be a safe attacker, only to have your opponent's weaker monster to suddenly overpower it because the star matchup favoured them. And unless you already understood the Guardian Star system, the result looked completely random. That's part of what made Forbidden Memories so infamous. So many important mechanics were either hidden, poorly explained, or never explained at all. Most casual players ignored Guardian Stars. Early runners had incomplete knowledge. Learning optimal stars become a part of high-level play. At the top level, runners eventually memorized favorable star matchups because failing to select the correct star could instantly lose critical duels. This created another layer of pressure during the runs. Speedrunners weren't just thinking about what cards they had available, they also had to think about the invisible combat modifiers affecting every major battle. Selecting the wrong star could cost the momentum, bad matchup could force defensive play, recoveries became harder, small mistakes became run ending. So even when your route was correct, even when your fusion succeeded, and even when your monster looked strong enough to win, Forbidden Memories could still punish you if the Guardian Star matchup went against you. That's part of why the game earned its reputation as RNG hell. To casual players, battles often looked unfair or unpredictable. But underneath the chaos, there were hidden systems completely influencing outcomes, and speedrunners had to learn all of them. Before the 15 card mod existed, Forbidden Memories speedruns were entirely dependent on the base game's normal reward system. After every duel victory, the game only rewarded you with a single card drop, and that one mechanic had a massive impact on the speedrun. Progression in Forbidden Memories is heavily tied to card quality. Better cards means stronger fusion means faster duels, and faster duels means viable runs. The problem was, the game only gave runners one card at a time. Important upgrades could take dozens of attempts, farming routes became extremely inconsistent, progression speed varied massively between runs, bad rewards stalled momentum. Sometimes you'd get exactly what you needed almost immediately, other times the game simply refused to cooperate. And because every duel only produced one reward card, bad luck could completely destroy pacing. Early speedrunning routes depended heavily on repeatedly farming duelists for usable upgrades, not because runners wanted to grind, but because the game often forced them to. Searching for fusion materials, hunting for stronger attackers, building consistency through RNG, losing huge amounts of time to bad drops. A single unlucky farming segment could cost minutes. Multiple unlucky segments could kill the run entirely. This is where the game earned its reputation, because the randomness didn't just affect combat, it affected progression itself. You weren't only fighting opponents, you were fighting the reward system too. Then the community introduced one of the biggest quality of life changes in the history of speedrunning, the 15 card mod. Winning a duel now awards 15 cards instead of 1. Players gain access to upgrades much faster this way, farming becomes dramatically more consistent, routes become more stable and competitive. The actual gameplay mechanics stayed the same, the difference was the progression consistency. Instead of relying on a single random reward after the duel, runners suddenly had access to 15 chances at the useful card, and that completely transformed routing. Eventually, runners realized that speedrunning needed one more thing than anything else: consistency. Because in the old Forbidden Memories, consistency barely existed. The biggest problem with vanilla speedrunning wasn't just the enemy difficulty, it was instability, weak draws, bad rewards, inconsistent damage, farming delays. Run constantly felt fragile. And then, that's when Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon started taking over the entire speedrun. 2800 attack was absurdly strong for huge portions of the game. Many early opponents simply couldn't beat it consistently. It allowed runners to skip slower, weaker strategies. For the stage of the game where runners could realistically access it, Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon was massively overpowered. A 2800 attack monster in early and mid-game progression could completely dominate duel pacing. This was real value of Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon. It wasn't just raw attack power, it was reliability. It gave runners a stable win condition, reduced dependence on weaker monsters, allowed more aggressive routing, helped stabilize dangerous duels. Old Forbidden Memory routes were constantly vulnerable to bad momentum, but once THTD hit the field, a lot of that pressure disappeared. Before Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon became central to routing, many runs felt like survival horror. You were improvising constantly, hoping your deck functioned, hoping enemies didn't outscale you too early, but THTD changed that. And over time, the entire speedrun slowly warped around accessing Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon as quickly and consistently as possible. Once runners realized how powerful it was, it stopped being just another fusion, and it became the backbone of the run. It was easy to understand why the community leaned so heavily into it. Forbidden Memories was brutally unstable. So when players discovered the strategy that actually controlled large parts of the game, of course, meta centralized around it. The problem was, over time, Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon became so dominant that it started defining almost the entire category. Large segments of the run became revolving around the exact same fusion strategy, same goals, same progression, same payoff, and eventually some runners started asking the important question, what happens if you remove it completely? A single rule changed the entire identity of the speedrun. The no Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon category bans the use of Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon entirely, not summoning it, no fusing it, no relying on it as a carry strategy, which means runners suddenly lose the fusion that previously stabilized huge sections of the game. At first, it might sound that the category just became harder for the sake of difficulty, but that's not what really happened. What actually changed was the depth of the gameplay, more fusion variety, more situational decisions, greater deck adaptation, and more route flexibility. Without one dominant fusion solving the most encounters, runners were forced to engage with it far more than the game systems. Suddenly, fusion knowledge mattered more, resource management mattered more, and duel planning mattered more. No THTD pushed runners towards understanding forbidden memories at a much deeper level. You couldn't just rely on overpowering monsters anymore. You needed backup plans, alternative fusion lines, recovery options, risk management. Knowing obscure fusion chains became valuable, understanding matchups safely became critical, small routing decisions became meaningful, runs became far more adaptive because the category demanded adaptation constantly. And to be clear, no THTD did not magically remove the game's RNG. Forbidden memories are still forbidden memories. The bad rewards still happen, bad draws still happen, the AI still tries to ruin your life. The difference is that the modern no THTD rely far more on decision making than pure overpowering force. Instead of asking, can I get Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon fast enough, the category started asking, can I adapt to whatever this game gives me? And that's why a lot of runners fell in love with the category, because every run felt different. Different fusion paths, different recoveries, different improvisations. The category rewards flexibility instead of repetition. Ironically, removing one of the most powerful fusions actually made the speedrun more strategic. Modern no THTD gameplay still has chaos, but now runners have far more opportunities to express skill through adaptation and routing. And that's the version of Forbidden Memories I eventually fell in love with. Not the version where one fusion solved everything, but the version where every duel felt dangerous, every recovery matters, every PB generally feels earned. But even with all these improvements, modern Forbidden Memories speedrunning is still brutal, especially at a high level. Because once you remove the Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon, the game stops giving you easy answers. Every run becomes a balancing act between aggression, safety, routing, and adaptation. At the top level, the category becomes less about memorizing one perfect route, and more about controlling chaos in real time. That's one of the reasons no THTD became so respected. Two runs can follow the same general route and still play out completely different. You're constantly adapting your decisions based on what the game gives you. Even in the modern era, Forbidden Memories still destroys runs constantly. Losing pace early, bad reward chains, dangerous AI fights, missing damage thresholds, runs slowly, bleeding time. The difference now is that runners have more tools to recover, but recovery itself became a skill. One of the biggest differences between newer runners and experienced runners is recovery ability. High-level players don't just play good runs well, they save bad runs. Improvising fusion paths, adjusting farming, playing safer temporarily, managing risk dynamically. Sometimes the best runs aren't the cleanest ones, they're the runs where everything went wrong. Then the runner still survived. And mentally, the grind can become exhausting because Forbidden Memories has a way of making every mistake feel expensive. Hours of resets, losing PB pace, small errors costing huge time, pressure during good runs. You can spend an entire session resetting before the run even gets going, and then finally getting a great pace run, only to lose it deep into the game. The higher you climb on the leaderboard, the smaller the improvements become. At top level, everyone understands the route. Everyone understands the mechanics, so the difference often comes down to execution under pressure and how well you manage the game's chaos. And eventually, after enough failed runs, enough resets, and enough hours learning the category, I started pushing toward leaderboard level times myself. At first, Forbidden Memories feels overwhelming, not because the mechanics are impossible to understand, but because the game's punishing you so aggressively. Early on, a lot of my runs died simply because I didn't yet understand how to recover from bad situations sufficiently. I'd panic, overcommit, take unnecessary risks, or waste too much time trying to save the runs when they were already collapsing. One of the biggest improvements over time was learning the difference between an actual bad luck and mistakes disguised as bad luck. It's a very important point. Greedy plays, unsafe duel setups, poor farming decisions, slow recovery routing, mismanagement tempo. At first, every failed run feels unfair, but eventually you realize some runs die because of RNG, and some runs die because you gave the RNG opportunities to punish you. And once the time starts improving, the grind becomes addictive. Every PB feels huge in this category because you understand how many things had to go right just to reach the end. But the higher the pace became, the more painful the resets became too. Late run mistakes, bad endgame rewards, AI high rolls, losing focus under pressure. There's a special kind of pain in Forbidden Memories. When you know the run is good, your pace is strong, your routing is clean, everything is lining up, but then suddenly the game reminds you why it has a reputation. Once the leaderboard pace becomes realistic, every duel starts feeling heavier. You're thinking differently. Not just, can I survive this duel? But, can I survive the duel without losing the run? Eventually I realized something important about high-level Forbidden Memories playing. Consistency is a real skill. Not perfect RNG, not miracle drops. Consistency. Top players aren't just getting lucky, they're maximizing every run the game gives them. And eventually, one run finally started coming together. The early game worked. The rewards were solid. The routing stayed stable. And for once, the run kept surviving. At some point during the run, I realized the pace was real. Not my PB pace, actual leaderboard pace. Nerves kicking in, playing more carefully, for fear of throwing the run. And that's when Forbidden Memories becomes terrifying, because the closer you get to the finish, the more every single duel feels capable of ending everything. At that point, you stop thinking about the full run, and you focus duel by duel, turn by turn, trying not to let the pressure destroy your decision making. Your heart starts racing, trying to stay controlled. Dangerous moments happen all the time, and you've got to get over them with small recoveries. One mistake at that level can erase hours instantly. And then, finally happened. The timer stops. Rank 13 in speedrun.com. After all the resets, all the failed runs, all the terrible RNG, it finally happened. And honestly, that's what makes Forbidden Memories special to me, because this game never gives you anything for free. Every good run feels earned, every PB feels earned. And every leaderboard placement feels like surviving a war against the game itself. Forbidden Memories will always be known as the RNG heavy speedrun, and honestly, that reputation is deserved. The game is chaotic, the AI is brutal, the reward system can be cruel, and sometimes it genuinely feels like the game is fighting against you. But that's not the full story. Because over the years, the community slowly transformed the speedrun into something far deeper than pure luck. Players optimized routes, learned hidden mechanics, built new categories, developed recovery strategies, and eventually turned one of the most unpredictable PS1 games ever made into a genuinely competitive speedrun. And for me personally, no twin-headed Thunder Dragon is where Forbidden Memories became truly interesting. Because once you remove the fusion that solved everything, the game demanding adaptability instead of repetition. There's more strategy, more creativity, more tension, more decision making. Every run feels unstable, but surviving that instability is where the category gets rewarding. I think that's why so many people stay attached to the game despite how brutal it can be, because Forbidden Memories creates moments no other speedrun really does. And sometimes a run looks completely dead, and somehow you bring it back, and those moments feel incredible. Reaching rank 13 for me wasn't just about getting lucky, it was about learning how to survive the chaos constantly, learning when to adapt, when to play safe and when to gamble, and most importantly, learning how to keep going after hundreds of failed runs. Because no matter how optimized Forbidden Memories becomes, every run still feels dangerous, and honestly, that's exactly why we kept coming back to it. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to subscribe and check out the stream on AnotherGamingBroadcast on Twitch. We're still grinding the game, still pushing the times, and still trying to survive the RNG. And thanks for watching.